Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Call to Become podcast with Lydia Bediako-Kissi. And so today, there's something interesting I'm going to share, and it was really hard to come up with this topic, which has to do with faithful stewards. Faithful stewards. This topic actually came up from what happened recently. So our pastor awarded all church workers, and each person he had something to say about their service to the kingdom and how faithful they have served and all that. And that was really encouraging, okay? I think in every church, they should do that to encourage people. So when he got to my turn, what he did mention was extremely faithful and extremely supportive. Now, I'm not saying this to boast, okay? First of all, I'm not saying this to brag about my achievement or something. There's a message that I'm led to share with you today. So when he said extremely faithful and extremely supportive, I'm the kind of person, I'm a deep thinker. And after thinking through, one thing that kept coming up was, if man actually says you're extremely faithful, you're extremely supportive, what would God say about me? Will I actually get a well done, good and faithful servant from the master? If that's something he would say someday, am I going to get that from the master? So that was something I kept on reflecting, which actually led me into today's message called the faithful stewards. And in 1 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 1 and 2 says that, let a man so consider us as servants of Christ and stewards of the mysteries of God. Moreover, it is required in steward that one be found faithful. And the thing is, you and I are actually servants of Jesus Christ, okay? And our main mandate is to fulfill our role as good stewards of whatever gifts he has entrusted us with. And just as he says that it is required in stewards that we all be found what? Faithful in what we have been entrusted with. We all be found faithful in whatever gift, whatever thing that God has entrusted us with. Because in 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 10 says that God has given each of you gifts from his great variety of spiritual gifts. And it says that use them well to serve one another. So that is why it says that it is required in steward that one be found faithful. So you want to use that gift God has entrusted you with to serve one another faithfully. Okay. And I just want you to understand what steward is. It is the careful and responsible management of something entrusted to one's care. And when you read the Greek word for steward, it's quite difficult to pronounce, but I'll try. It means oikonomos. I hope I got it right. And it has to do with one who has the authority and responsibility for something, one who is in charge of, or one who is responsible for. And it could be a manager, it could be an administrator. And so these people sometimes oversees what belongs to someone else, okay? And it could be one that carries authority to manage what has been entrusted to them. All right. So if there's any example of stewards in the Bible that I will give, I would say the best example is Joseph. I mean, when you look at this man, Joseph, man lived in Potiphar's house, and he's the only one that you realize that kept being promoted at every stage in his life. He served wholeheartedly. He used whatever gift that God gave to him effectively. Even when he was in prison, this man was still serving, using his gift to serve, to the extent that he had to oversee the whole of Potiphar's household, even an entire nation. That is Joseph. That is why it is expected that as stewards, we just make sure that we handle what has been entrusted to us, okay? We handle it with care and make sure that you're making good use of what has been entrusted to you. And so we want to dive into what faithful is. Recently, I also asked a few friends in ministry people in business, people in the corporate world, about what faithful actually means to them, just in one word, how they would define faithful. And it was interesting to know that majority of them didn't mention loyal as their definition for faithful. And we have others like committed, consistent, trustworthy, honest, dependable, reliable, and there was another one, devoted. So these were some of the popular response I received from people in ministry, in the corporate world, leaders, even friends, about what faithful means to them. But what really came to mind after reading that parable of the talents changed my perspective about what faithful actually means. And we're gonna get into the parable of the talents shortly. So personally, I saw faithful as multiplication. Multiplication in the sense that we're going to read the parable of the talents, then we'll get the understanding about why it is multiplication. Because I know a lot of people are going to say, but faithful is not a synonym for multiplication. Yes, you're right. You will not find that in the dictionary. But as we keep reading the parable of the talent, you understand why faithful is linked to multiplication. Faithful actually means multiplication. That is that one word I would use to define faithful. So we want to read the parable of the talent, and in Matthew 25 verse 14 says, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going on a long trip. He called together his servants and entrusted his money to them while he was gone. Now the man going on a long trip is actually Jesus, and what he did was he called together his servants, and these servants are actually you and I. He called together his servants and entrusted his money to them while he was gone. God gave them something to steward, and as you notice, it made mention that the man was going on a long trip. So they didn't really specify if he's gonna come back each and every weekend or so to see how the servants are progressing with whatever gift that has been given to them. All what it made mention was that this man was going on a long trip. So in verse 15, it says that he gave 5 bags of silver to one, and 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last, dividing it in proportion to their abilities. He then left on his trip. So maybe we should break this down. He says, he gave 5 bags of silver to one. In other Bible translations, when you read it, the bags of silver, most of them do refer to as talents. I'm reading from the NLT version, And so I just want us to understand what talent actually means. When we look at the Greek word for talent, it is talanton, which has to do with a measure of weight. So it is usually associated with weight of gold and silver. The reason why I'm making this clear to you is that talent that was entrusted to these people to steward were valuable assets. They were not just anything that was entrusted to them. It was a valuable thing. So I did a little bit of research to understand more about the talent, and it made us understand that a talent is actually equal to 75 pounds or 34 kilograms. That is why I made mention that it's a measure of weight. It's not necessarily a measure of money. So it says that to one, he gave 5 bags of silver. To another, he gave 2 bags of silver, and he gave 1 bag of silver to the last. That is what the scripture is saying, that he divided it according to their abilities. That is God doing his thing. And he makes sure that he gives it to you. And that sometimes you may think it's too much. And that is a fact, because sometimes it can just blow your mind that, is this thing not too much for me? But in a way, you would come to realize that God has given us that grace, that capacity, that strength to be able to handle certain things. That is why he entrusted some with 5, because he believes that those with 5 can handle whatever talent that he has given then to steward, okay? And that should tell you that even just one talent is very heavy. It comes with a significant amount of responsibility. So imagine if you've been given 5 talents. That should tell you how huge your responsibilities are going to be. And I just want you to understand that in this parable, the entrustment had to do with money. It doesn't necessarily mean money. I believe it has to do with certain gifts, certain talents that God has entrusted to his people. So in verse 16, it says that the servant who received 5 bags of silver began to invest the money and earned 5 more. The servant with 2 bags of silver also went to work and earned 2 more. But the servant who received 1 bag of silver dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money. I know you've heard this parable several times. Can you see that multiplication is taking place? Because it says that the servant who received 5 bags of silver began to invest and earned 5 more. That is multiplication. He multiplied what was given to him. That's why I mentioned when having talent, it comes with huge responsibility. And it's not an easy one, okay? So imagine you having 5 bags of silver and you keep working hard, you keep serving, you keep using your entrusted gifts effectively. And then you earn 5 more. The person, his servant with 2 bags of silver also went to work and earned 2 more. So each and every servant was making good use of their entrusted gifts. And so that is where you find the multiplication. They multiplied what was given to them. By the person with the 1, let's read it. It says that, but the servant who received the 1 bag of silver dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money. So this guy did not multiply at all. You realize that whatever gift that was given to him, he maintained it. He's like most of us that do have the gift, but they are not using it. They are not making good use of it. It's like they are just hiding. Because if he dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money, it means that they are also hiding whatever gift that God has given to them. They know they have received something, but you are hiding your gifts. You are not making good use of what God has given to you. And there's going to be a time when you have to give an account of what has been entrusted to you. So 2 of the servants multiplied their entrusted gifts, but 1 did not multiply. He rather maintained what was given to him. He rather hid it and did not make good use of it. So we want to continue reading. Verse 19, it says, after a long time, their master returned from his trip and called them to give an account of how they had used his money. The servant to whom he had entrusted the 5 bags of silver came forward with 5 more and said, Master, you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 5 more. The master was full of praise. And let's listen to what the master said. He says, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount. So now I give you more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. That is why I mentioned that when we talk about talent, it has to do with huge responsibilities coming with it. It is not just a talent, it comes with hard work. Just as the master said, you have been faithful in handling the small amount given. He's talking to the one with the 5 bags of silver or the 5 talents. You have been faithful in handling the small amount. So now I will give you many more responsibilities. And I like what he says, let's celebrate together. And there are more responsibilities coming. So he says, well done, you faithful servant. That is why I actually link faithful to multiplication. Because if the servant didn't multiply, do you think the Lord will call them faithful servants? Because they multiplied what was given to them. He gained 5 more. It is that 5 more that qualified them to be good and faithful servants. He said what? You have been faithful in handling this small amount. So now I will give you many more responsibilities. So the thing is, when God comes, or when the master comes, and we are to give an account, we will definitely give an account of what he has entrusted us with. That gift, whatever thing he has entrusted you with, that talent, were you able to serve in that capacity that he has enabled you to do? This message, I believe it's for everyone, but I'm also speaking to myself. Yes, so we definitely have a long way to go, and we want to make sure that we get a well done, good and faithful servant, to the extent that God will say that you have what? Handled the small amount, so now I will give you more responsibilities. Okay, and let's read what the second servant did. It says, but the second servant, who had received 2 bags of silver, came forward and said, Master, you gave me 2 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 2 more. I like the fact that he gave everyone according to what? Their abilities. He gave proportions to them. And 2 of them did multiply. And so we want to hear what the master said for the second one. Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling the small amounts. So now I give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. Now, can you see the link between the response between what the master gave for the first one and second one? They are actually the same thing. It's exactly the same judgment he gave to both the first one and the second one. And so that is to say that if you have like the biggest talent and you want to be treated special, I'm sorry. In God's case, I think everyone is equal. No matter whatever gifts you have been given, you will definitely receive the same judgment. We're all going to receive the same judgment. There's nothing like because you have 5, your case is going to be special. You would be treated the same. That is God. Because if you see his response when everyone was given account, and his judgment was, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount. So now I give you many more responsibilities. So just to say that these 2 people multiplied, but the last one hid what? His talent. He hid that bag of silver that was given to him. Let's hear the judgment from the master. He says, then the servant with 1 bag of silver came and said, Master, I knew you were a harsh man, harvesting crops you didn't plant and gathering crops you didn't cultivate. I was afraid I would lose your money, so I hid it in the earth. He says, look, here is your money back. And you know, this guy, first of all, I don't think he knew who his master was. He didn't know the nature of this master. Because if you could perceive who God is, you wouldn't be speaking like this. He said, I knew you were a harsh man. Who says God is a harsh person? He had no idea about who his master was. He had the wrong mindset or perception about who his master was. So this guy did not multiply at all. I feel a lot of believers are in this state. I mentioned to you that they were awarding church workers. In my church, I noticed that almost every member of the church were awarded. It was just a handful who did not receive an award. It was my prayer that they do not miss it at the long run, because there's going to be a time where we'll all give an account of what God has entrusted to us. And the thing is, are we making good use of what God has entrusted to us? Are we making good use of it? And so let's hear the master's judgment for the servant with 1 bag and who hid it. He says that, you wicked and lazy servant, if you knew I harvested crops I didn't plant and gathered crops I didn't cultivate, why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? At least I could have gotten some interest on it. And I just want us to break it down. This is a harsh judgment. If it's coming from the master and he's calling you, you wicked and lazy servant, then you must be wicked. So imagine if you are not using your gift, if you are not using whatever thing God has entrusted you with, and you are hiding it. This is the master's judgment to you. He says, well, you wicked and lazy servant. We want to dive deep into this and understand what the Greek word for lazy is actually okoneros, okay, which has to do with to delay, slow, slothful, lazy. Other definition has to do with hesitating to engage in something worthwhile. That is lazy. And when we look at wicked, because he said, you wicked and lazy servant. So wicked, the Greek term is poneros, which actually means possessing a serious fault and consequently being worthless. And when we talk about worthless, it doesn't mean that you as a whole, character, everything is worthless. It has to do with the fact that you are not engaging your gifts. And so it makes you worthless. I know it's a very strong word over there, but that is the Greek meaning for wicked. So if the master is calling you wicked and lazy servant, and so the master finds you worthless, that is a serious thing you should deal with as a child of God. If God has entrusted you with something and you are not multiplying it, but you are hiding it, you are just maintaining it, would you want such a harsh judgment from the Lord? Which he says that wicked and lazy servant. I can just imagine the tone which the master was replying or responding to his account. And so we have to rise up and use our entrusted gift. We do not need to maintain it, because there's a time coming where we would all have to give an account of what God has entrusted us with. No matter how small it is, you will still give an account of it. If he was able to give someone 5, he was able to give someone 2, he was able to give someone 1, and that one person with the talent did not make good use of it, you may probably undermine your gift and think that, oh, this is nothing, this is not necessary. You don't value it. But like I mentioned to you, that each and every talent is valuable. It has to do with a measure of weight, and it comes with huge responsibility. Because if you see what the master, the response from the first and second servant, he says that I will give you more responsibilities. So that should tell you that each talent or gift that he has entrusted you with, for you to work with it, for you to make good use of it, there are responsibilities that you need to steward and give an account to when he returns. And my question for you today is, are you making good use of what God has entrusted you with? Do you want to get that well done, good and faithful servant? This message is also speaking to me, because let's just imagine, if God has entrusted you with 5 talents, and you are just making good use of 2 or 3 of the talents, then you should know that you will be judged too, and you're going to be judged about what you did with the 5 and not just the 3. Okay, are you also going to get that wicked and lazy servant? Because I think that even if you should make good use of 3 out of 5, you may probably get that wicked and lazy servant, because it's those who multiplied. You just want to make sure that you multiply. Because if God has entrusted you with 3, with 5, you want to make sure that you are serving in that capacity. You are taking charge and full responsibility of what he has entrusted you with for each talent. And don't despise that one that you have. Because you know the judgment he gave for the first 2. He says that you have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I give you many more responsibilities. So even if yours is 1, are you faithful in handling that small amount that has been given to you? Are you faithful in it? Because like I always say, there's more room for promotion in the kingdom. The same way you want to be promoted at your workplace, the same way you want to earn more money in various places, businesses and all that, the same way you can be promoted in the kingdom. I like that scripture which says that my food is to do the will of my Father who has sent me and finish his work. We've all been given that work. We've all been given that God-given assignment. We have a God-given calling to fulfill. Our mandates in whatever country that you find yourself in. Are you doing the will of the Father? Are you doing the will of the Father who has sent you? That is the question you should ask yourself. And we need to rise up and let's begin to make good use of our entrusted gifts, because we have been made for more. Because the more you use your gifts, the more it multiplies. And then the more responsibilities God gives you, we have definitely been made for more. And so you don't want to be stuck with what you already have and you're not making good use of it. That is how people get frustrated, because there is something God has given to you. You know what God has given to you. You are not making good use of it. You are not using it. And so you get frustrated that you feel there's that hunger for more. But even with that hunger for more, you're not making good use of what has been entrusted to you. And so even if it's that one thing that you have and you think it's not useful, you don't value whatever thing God has given to you. Now, to God, no matter how small it is of great value. Every talent, it's of great value. And so you need to rise up and make good use of it. That is my word to you today. The parable of this talent. And like I mentioned, my message is the faithful steward. So we all have to be faithful. At the end, we need to have that well done, good, faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount. So now I give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. Let all of us have that mindset of having the master judge us this way. Because it says that the master was full of praise. He was excited that at least I trusted this person with 5 talents. And what? She multiplied her talents. She multiplied what was given to her. She multiplied her gifts. She wasn't just stuck with it. Even if your gift is to sing, are you making good use of this gift, or you are hiding it? If your gift is to write books, are you making good use of this gift? If you've been called to be an intercessor, to be an apostle, to be a prophet to the nations, are you making good use of this gift? Are you multiplying your gifts, or you are just maintaining it, or you're hiding it? The world needs to know about you. Are you making good use of it? And so this is a message for each and every one, that one gift, that one bag of silver that you are not using, you're going to give an account of that. And God is going to judge you on it. And so you need to rise up and do something with it, or else you're not ready for what God is going to do to you. So it's a wake-up call that we all need to rise up and make good use of it. Even if you have 5 and you're just working in 3, we need to step up and complete that race, because you have 2 more to complete and you know it. You know what you need to do. And so let's step up and do what God has got us to do in its fullness. Amen. Thank you so much for your time, and I just hope that this message is a blessing to you. And please feel free to share with your friends, with anyone that needs to hear about this faithful stewards, and may their lives be blessed as they listen. So be blessed. Be blessed.